8 scheduled episodes, with the last one being a random what questions I get during this to answer them, and then we'll have the ebook that we're working on at the end. But we have a lot of info here, not sure if you can even see that, to cover today, and I only want to use 20 or 30 minutes of your time, so we are going to absolutely get right to it. I'm going to be looking down a good bit because I have so many notes here and I don't want to miss anything. So this is Furniture Painting 101, Episode 2, Finding and Choosing Pieces, Fun, Profit, and Style. And I do want to remind you that if you have fun, because if it's not fun, it can wear you out and drag you down really quick. So the number one category here is the investment and the cost. And things you have to take into consideration are the hours that you spend looking for. That includes playing on Facebook, driving, picking up, and storing the furniture piece. I calculate that for myself at $20 an hour, and I've been using $20 an hour for probably 5 years. I've been doing this for close to 2 decades, and that's just the amount that works for me. Choose what works for you. But in that, you would consider the cost of the piece. Say you find a piece for $50. The cost of the repairs, if the veneer is chipped and you got to spend time chipping the rest of that off and sanding it straight, or using a wood filler and putting that back in, then sanding that straight, and then putting a wood conditioner on it, and all the other steps that you may have to take to get the piece to where it would have been if they would have charged you $150 for it. You have to count that time in there. Your time is valuable too. And we all start, or at least I did, a lot of us start with feeling like we need to buy the really cheap pieces because we're afraid they're not going to sell if they're too expensive and all those things. So you can still do that, obviously, but if you're going to do this as a business, everything has to be factored into what it cost you. So then you have to factor in the cost of the flip supplies, like the wood putty or the wood glue and all the things that we were just talking about using for your repairs. But say a bottle of wood glue is $4. You're not going to use a whole, even if you don't have any, you have to go to Lowe's or my website and buy some. You're not going to use the whole thing. So you are probably going to use 1/10 of that. So you're probably gonna use 40 cents worth of glue. So you need to count the percentage of the cost to you. This is only when you're buying one to flip, not when you're doing a commissioned piece. But the cost that it cost you, that has to be added in there. Just get yourself a little notebook. I do a lot of it in my planner. And it's important to write all that down because, you're going to be paying taxes on all this, and you need to make a profit if you're going to be doing this for a living. And a profit isn't buying a piece for $10 and selling it for $25 when you've worked 14 hours on it and used, $40 worth of paint. So that's a hobby. And you can do that too if you want, but what we're talking about here is doing this for a living. So you have to add the cost of your flip supplies. And one more comment on that is when I'm doing a commissioned piece for somebody and I'm calculating the amount of supplies and things that it's going to take to use it, I charge them the retail price. So say I pay $5 for something and that retails for $10, I would charge them the $10 because I'm going to have to open something I would have normally sold, and it will never be able to be sold, so I've actually invested $10 in it. Okay, so and we're not going to go, I'm going to talk just a second right here about factors to consider for it to be profitable, but there's going to be another episode just on that, so this is just hitting the tip of the iceberg. And so you want to know, you're going to have to take your total labor, the total cost of materials, including the piece, and the labor it cost you to go, the time it cost you to go get the piece, bring it to your house, store it, and whatever. And then that's going to give you the actual cost of the piece. Then you have to factor in what percentage of profit that you need to make for it to be worthwhile to you. For me, that's about 35 to 40%. I'm going to calculate it here at that 35%. So you also need to factor in how you're going to sell it. If you have booth rent, say 10%, or if you have overhead, if you own your own store, say 10%, or if you're going to be paying booth rent or overhead plus a commission of, say, another 5%, or any fees, or the fees would be about 5%. And that's where I'm talking about, say you list it on Etsy, and or you have it in your booth at the vendor mall. You're going to be paying a booth rent, so you need to figure out the square footage of your booth, or of the space that you put it in, and how much each, you know, square foot of that cost. And if this dresser takes up 4 square feet for 2 months, you have to factor that cost in there, not to come out of your profits, but as part of the cost of your overhead. And then most vendor malls and Etsy and other online marketplaces, PayPal, if you buy it through my website, it goes through PayPal. They're going to charge 3 to 5% credit card fees plus some commission on there as well. So you have to add that in. So your selling price is going to be the cost of what you paid for it plus the expenses of your materials and your labor and your overhead and your fees plus your profit. Don't forget to add that at the bottom. Your $20 an hour is your labor fee. That's not your profit for your business. Terry Stovall makes $20 an hour. Sisterhood of the Traveling Brush makes 35% of everything that I do. So that, you know, we'll go into that in more detail later, but that's how you calculate your price. You have to factor in everything. Okay, and that was number 2 of what you need to consider. Number 3, we're going to talk about the search here and the distance of your search. And this is where you should have fun. So just have a good time with it. But things you have to consider are the distance, whether you have just a pickup truck, whether you have a van or an SUV, whether or not you have a trailer, or whether or not you're going to rent a U-Haul. They have little flatbed trailers at places like Tractor Supply and other places that you can rent for, you know, $15 or $20 that has to be added as an expense into your cost. And a U-Haul these days, you know, $59 or something like that for the day. But most of the common places are Facebook Marketplace. We're all addicted to that, of course. It has been a wonderful thing for this business. I live in a rural area, and I keep my Facebook Marketplace setting on about 30 miles. It's about 50 to 60 miles to the closest large town in any direction from me. But whenever I go that far, it just sends me too much stuff. So things that I could grab a one-off of here in my local area, that's the main search that I keep on all the time. However, when you are ready to go on a haul, like a thrift haul, if you're doing this for a living and you have etched out some space in your building or in your shed or wherever to hold about 6 pieces, that's how you make more money. Then for me, where I live, I would go probably 200 miles out. That would include Houston, Texas for me, and Baton Rouge, Louisiana. And those are much larger places, and they have all the good stuff. I don't even know how to put it, but they have all the good furniture, way cheaper than they have in my local area. But if I was to drive from here to Houston to pick up a $25 dresser, by the time I get back, it already has a basic materials or supplies cost and all that of a couple of $100. Because you know I'm going to eat lunch while I'm gone, gas back and forth the whole way, and all that. So it's better to plan that out and say, for example, go quarterly. Quarterly, expand that search. I never use Craigslist, so I don't know anything about that. I've only heard bad stuff. But you can expand your area quarterly. Rent that U-Haul if you need to make it worth your while, because if you pay $60 for it and you're able to pick up 6 pieces, that only adds $10 to the cost of each piece. So see how that's a shared thing, and you can then route your trip and say, I'm going to pick up 2 pieces in Beaumont, 2 pieces in Friendswood, and 2 pieces in downtown Houston, and make a day of it. Bring a friend with me, have a girl trip, go out and have a great lunch, probably hit a garage sale or a thrift store or 2 on the way, and really enjoy it. And that is a profitable way to get nicer pieces that are in your area by using Facebook Marketplace. Another fun way is through auctions, and we have local auctions here. We have one about 20 miles from here, and I never go, and I haven't been right now, because of social distancing and things like that. But there are online auctions, and my mind is blank right now, and I didn't make myself a note of what a couple of the national ones are, but they send me like weekly digestive emails where they're doing online auctions of estate sales and things like that, and you can look through and say, wow, they have, this is an hour and a half from me, and they have 10 things I'm interested in, and then it's worth your while to register and bid for those. And you can also just watch Marketplace, or here we have a radio station that covers it called The Swap Shop. But look for estate sales and garage sales. Those are often good places. Those are often when you're going to get pieces that aren't in as good a shape. But as long as you can factor that expense in and you're getting something really cool, it's still worthwhile. Then you have thrift stores, antique stores, which are generally a little more expensive, Goodwill, Habitat Restores, and another really good place is storage facility sales. When people, we live in an area of a military installation, so when people are ETSing or they're moving from one area to the other, watch the papers and the ads for those areas, because they can only carry so much and it all goes by weight, and they want to leave a lot of crap and a lot of good stuff. So the storage sales are really good. After the people don't pay for something like 3 or 4 months, the storage unit company, if you've ever seen Storage Wars or whatever that's called, the storage unit companies sell off the items that are inside there, and you can get a lot of stuff, pay $100 for a storage unit and then have it be chock full of perfect condition antique furniture. It does happen. Another place that you can contact is your local furniture stores. I don't know whether you can do it with the big companies like Ashley, but I don't know what it would hurt to contact the manager there. But I've contacted the local furniture stores here. Ivan Smith is the name of our local one here, and tell them anytime they get like a scratch and dent piece or a piece that they can't sell for full price, or a lot of times they have the they sell the insurance that goes with the pieces. A person will get a little nick on theirs, they'll replace the whole dang thing, and they have to pick up the old one. And you can see if you can buy those well-built pieces for, pennies on the dollar. And those are very nice, easy, quick flips. Another really good place is Wayfair and Amazon, and just getting brand new furniture. I've had, on more than one occasion, people want me to recreate a finish that I've done before and mail me the furniture off of Amazon Prime. It gets here in a couple of days. I unbox it. It's in perfect condition. I put a finish on it, contact you, ship, and it's out of here. And that is so nice to be able to work on furniture that's in good condition. But that's also something that you can do yourself. Go on there and spend $300 or $400 on some really nice nightstands that you believe that you'll be able to sell for $600 or $700. Maybe nightstands was a bad example, but you get what I'm saying there. That's another way. So one last thing is, and I'm not, one of the big artists that has pickers out there, but I do have pickers out there. I have everybody I know in my close family and my close friends knows what I do for a living. And they play on Facebook, just like I do, or they go to garage sales that I don't go to, and they call me and they say, hey, let me send you a picture of this desk I just found. It's in perfect condition and it's $15. And I'm like, yes, sister, bring it to me. Tell me where to go. So, it's not like you have to hire professional pickers to go and pick your things. Your friends and family, once you let them know, hey, if you see anything cool, let me know. They'll start sending you pictures, sharing with you, pieces that are maybe out of an area that you normally search, and I've gotten a bunch of really good pieces that way. So the number one thing is, if you're gonna have a large search area, you have to pick up several pieces. You can rent a U-Haul, factor it into the cost inexpensively, bring your best girlfriend, and have a fun day of it. Save your receipts. Save for the mileage, your gas receipts, your lunch receipts, because all of that fun trip right there is tax deductible when you're working your business like a business. So that's the fun part. Now we're going to go to supplies. That's section 4. And none of this is an exhaustive list, but this is, with couple of decades of experience, the top things that I use, and I'm going to show you these in case you don't have them yet. But the number one thing is furniture dollies, and there are several kinds. I'm going to show you this first. These are just little wheels. These are mostly what I just roll the furniture around in. These come in a couple of sizes. They're in my Amazon store, which is amazon.com shop Sisterhood of the Traveling Brush. I think if you want that link, just let me know. But I use the heck out of these here in my studio. But also, this is small. I can take this with me. And if I go and I find something in the back of somebody's garage or warehouse or whatever, it's good to have more than one set of wheels going at a time. So I carry these with me almost all the time. This is my favorite. These are about, and they all come in more than one size. I like a little bit bigger one because it's gonna, both legs of your dresser are likely to fit on here. I like the one with the boards on it like this because I'll show you the next one. I do not understand that cutout middle part. That is for men because it makes no sense. It is not for women because we know better than that. Not criticizing men, having a good time here. Anyways, you put, you don't want to kill your shoulders. You don't want to kill your back. You don't want to kill anybody else's shoulders or back. Have these with you in the trunk of your car, the back of your truck, or in your U-Haul, whatever. And you just pick up one side, put the legs on, go around to the other side, pick it up, put the legs on, scoot it all the way to the door. Then you have to generally lift it up, pull this over the threshold, sit it back down, push it a little, and do the same thing. And then your zoom all the way out to your whatever you're going to carry it in. Absolutely, those are called furniture dollies. Absolutely life-saving. This is the other kind that makes no sense to me. I like the big ones. They make them half this size, so the other carpeted piece would be right here. So you could, and I do have those around here somewhere too, but I couldn't, do everything for the show and tell today. But the other one, like I just showed you, the one with the wood all the way across, I pay about $36 for them or something like that at Tractor Supply. What's the name of that place? Northern Tool. I think I got this one at Northern Tool. It says Milwaukee on it. But what most of mine that are like this before I started finding those look like is I cut a piece of plywood to size, and just screwed it in through this size and made it one like that. But occasionally I do use these, and when you use them, your legs have to fit on this carpeted part, or they're going to fall through and you're not going to be scooting nothing. But they're still definitely better than having nothing. And those are about $10 cheaper. So considering the fact that these are tools that I use all day long, every day, that's not a bad price. And I don't know if you can see this. Lord, I'm in funky leggings. Y'all excuse me. I'm going to try to pump it up. This is my, I don't know if it's going to pump up enough to see. Yep, here it comes. Here it is. This is hydraulic. It goes up. I can slowly let it down. See now it's going back down? Lovely. And you just pump it up right here. I love this thing. This was not an investment that I had in my first few years. Worth its weight in gold to me. And this is called a hydraulic lift. You can put a piece of plywood on it going the other direction to make it larger. It's heavy as heck, and it maneuvers well in the back, but with movable legs, or well, not legs, but rollers, but not in front. But it's heavy. So I personally have a shoulder injury, and I can't pick this up and put it in the back of a U-Haul unless I have a ramp. And neither am I going to ask my daughter or my BFF or anybody to do that. However, I have this at home waiting. When the truck pulls back up, I lift this all the way up. This is going to be about as high as a tailgate is. And slide the piece of furniture out onto this and then let it down to the ground, and then you can put it on your other furniture dollies, scoot it on in to wherever you're going to store it. So furniture dollies, and then there's the hand truck kind, and that's the kind like we've seen before. It's got like a round part at the top and long pipes that go down and a little metal part at the bottom, and you tilt it back and push a piece. That's great for nightstands, individual small pieces and things like that, and works great. And we generally carry one of those with us too, but it's outside with a dryer on it right now, and I just didn't feel like bringing it in, but I think you know what I mean. And you can get those starting, and you want a strong one that's going to hold at least 100 pounds, but I would go for a 250 pound one. It's much more worth your time, and they're less likely to have flat tires. But anyway, those are about 50 bucks. You can start off with a cheaper one. You don't have to have one at first. I think mine was about $89. So another way is what they call a shoulder strap. And that's some kind of newfangled something where you see two tiny women toting a refrigerator around. It looks miraculous. I don't know because I don't have one because I have a bad shoulder. But they make a strap that goes under the piece of furniture, over my shoulders and over my buddy's shoulders, and where supposedly that evens out the weight distribution of the item that you're carrying, and it feels like you're carrying nothing. I've not tried it. If any of you have, please tell me about it below, and then whenever I'm working on the ebook version of this, I'll make sure and include that information. Another thing that's really important, let me show you this one first. This is called shrink wrap. It's really like saran wrap, but it comes on a giant roll. This is probably 25 pounds right here. And you carry this, and even if you get the smaller one, they make one that's about half this size, and I have one somewhere, but today this is the one I could find. You start it and you wrap it around your piece of furniture, and that holds the drawers in, holds the hardware in place, and stops any of the little dings from happening. And that, I don't know the price of that. It's more expensive than you think it would be, but that roll is probably 10 years old. I mean, it lasts forever. This is called a furniture blanket. They're usually black, light blue, or dark blue. I guess that shows less stains and things like this. This is lightweight, and it's quilted, and it's absorbent, and I have a crap ton of them because they're only, now and then they run them at Harbor Freight, which is a cheap tool store. where you get cheap tools. Remember I told you that. That's not where you want to buy your good stuff. But stuff like this, and cases of chip brushes and stuff, I buy there all day long. But these are what you would, when you get the piece of furniture in the back of your truck or in your van or in your U-Haul, you throw one of these over it, or at least put it in between the pieces of furniture, and it cushions them, it protects them, it keeps them from sliding. And you use these when you're going to pick up your pieces in like this, but also whenever, make sure that whoever is delivering your piece uses one too. And I'll give you a little secret on that. I generally, these are under $10. I generally pay about $6 for them, and I include $6 in with the material fee of the pieces that I do, so that when somebody comes and picks up a piece, instead of me delivering it, I hate to deliver it, I include this. They think I'm the greatest ever. Yeah, they pay for it, but I include this because men will strap that crap down and wear the whole top piece of paint off of your piece of furniture if they like to strap things too tight. Or maybe that's only my husband, but he likes to strap things too tight. So when you have this on there, it's not going to rub that finish off, and it's not going to damage it. And I had one more thing. Let me see if I can grab it, because we were playing with it last night. I don't know where I put it. Here it is. These are straps. There are, and I don't know if I wrote that on there. What are those things called? Ties, zip ties, and there are also bungees. But this is the main one that we're going to talk about, and this is a simple one. They make these, you know, that can withstand 1,000 pounds of pressure, but they're all made pretty strong. This is an inexpensive one, probably $10 or something like that, but you can get them, you know, in the $150 range if you're needing to hold a whole tractor on your trailer, but that's not what we're doing. But these, and if you need a demo on how to work one of these, let me know that, and I'll just do a quick video clip on it. But basically, almost all of the box trailers, the enclosed trailers like the U-Haul, will have little eye hooks on the side, and generally you think, what the heck? Well, these things fit in them. There's a little hook on the end there. Can you see it? And there's one on the other end. So you would hook this on your trailer or the pickup truck or whatever, you know, the side of the trailer, whatever you're going to hook it on, and loosely put this one on the other side, and then you pull the one that doesn't have a hook on it to get it kind of tight, and then you back and forth, back and forth, back and forth until it's snug, but not so dang tight that you're going to dent the top of it in or scratch the finish. And right here, let me show you this. Get up close here. There's a little pull notch right here. See it? And there's actually a little place when you pull this out flat. Let's see if I've done it now. When you pull this out flat, there's a little place your finger can fit in right here. And then there's this little pulley thing right here. So when you pull either just one of them or both of them, that pulls it out, pulls out the part that's tightening it on here, and then you can loosen your strap and pull it back off and get your piece out. But it has rode sturdily the entire trip, and the blanket being over the piece of furniture first protects the piece of furniture. Okay, so if you don't have those furniture blankets, I've used regular blankets and quilts, but kind of why, unless you just have an overabundance of ones that you're not using for anything, when you can get these for $6 or $8, and the one for your bed probably costs $50 or more. Shrink wrap. If you can have a ramp, that's another good thing. If you do the U-Haul, they generally will have a pull-out ramp and a lower truck base, I guess is the way to put it, where, say, if you have a pickup truck and your tailgate is way up here, if you're driving a U-Haul, if you look for the one with the lower clearance, the back of the bed of it's going to be way down here. That's a whole lot less far for you to have to pick something up to use that. So look for a ramp or look for a lowered bed, and the trailers are lower, and they'll usually have, if you have a flat trailer that we have what ours is called as a car hauler. If you look toward the back of it, if you're just renting one and you're not familiar with it, if you look toward the back of it, generally about 2 feet from the very end on the outer sides of the trailer, there's a little enclosed area, and that's where your ramps are, and you can pull that out, then you bring it to the back and it just attaches on, and it's wide enough generally for tires or for one person to walk up or for you to push a regular dolly up, and it's generally gonna help you. Zip ties, if you have them, I don't know why that you would need them, but they have came in handy a time or two. And the same thing, if you don't have this kind of ratchet strap, you can use the elastic bungees that have the 2 hooks on each end, but you need to get several sizes of them, and they would need to be pretty large when the straps come pretty large. Another thing that's really important is a flashlight. I always have a little one like this in my bag, and then I carry this one whenever we're going to go and look for furniture, because of a lot of times it's going to be in people's shed, or it's going to be in a garage or a warehouse or something that doesn't have power on anymore. And if you go in there naked-eyed, you're going to think, wow, this is a beautiful piece of furniture, and then you pull it outside into the light and you're like, oh my God, now I feel obligated to buy this piece of junk. Lifesaver. These take, this one is Eric's. I have the Makita one somewhere, but these take the same battery as your drill that you'll probably have with you, your screw gun and all that, and you can just switch out those batteries, and it makes it very easy. And this is the size that you can just keep in your purse or in the side pocket of your vehicle and have there anyway. Okay, now we're going to go to section number 5, and that is style and condition. And it's a smart business decision for people who decide on a style and stick with it. And that's when you think of people like Dion Woods with the turquoise iris. That girl does more armoires than anybody I've ever seen in my life. And she does them with this boho kind of blendy, kind of ethereal kind of technique, to where when you see one, you absolutely positively know that's her piece. Same thing with Quita Allen of All Shabbed Out. She likes the really French fancied up, modelly blended pieces, and when you see a Quita piece, you know a Quita piece. And that's important if you want to be, I don't know, Facebook famous and be known for a piece, to where anybody who's looking for a fancy, beachy armoire is going to know to go to Dion for that. Or anybody who wants a bed that is a statement, spectacular piece that you've never even imagined, you know to go to Quita for that. And those things are important to an extent. I get bored to death with that kind of stuff. So depending on, whether you want, if that's a part of your business plan is monetizing, making money, teaching classes, I do all those things and still have a varied style. But if you want to nail down your brand to a niche, that's where they say the riches are in the niches, then that 100% benefits you. If not, it's okay if you don't. You can be, like Brandy from Brushed by Brandy is known to be a blender. That girl blends beautifully. And if you want a dresser that's blended beautifully and very mild and pleasing to the eye, that's who you would go to. But you don't have to do that, just as an FYI. If you're wanting to move a lot of pieces, need to know what sells good in your area and what is plentiful and what is rare. And Leah Rex from Noel Design Co. And I discussed this at one time. I love buffets. I don't know why. I love antique buffets. I've played under the one of my grandmother's when I was a little girl, and maybe that's why it means so much to me. But they're a rare find here, and when I find one, I feel like I pay too much for them because I just want it so bad because it's a rarity. And where she's from, which I think is Indiana, but then I think she's an hour from Chicago, so maybe it's Illinois. Anyways, they're everywhere. Everybody apparently had one back in the day there, and everybody didn't here. It was a rarity here. So a buffet is going to go for a lot more in my area than her area. If I could plan a vacation right now, I would rent that U-Haul truck. I'd probably take my car up there and rent a U-Haul and haul it back, and go to where she lives and buy a half a dozen buffets, and my heart would explode with happiness. But so you need to know that, you know, things that are plentiful, those are going to, in your area, that doesn't mean they're cheap and everybody has them, because every area doesn't. And you can sell them on Etsy and places outside of your area and still get a premium price for it. But if you're not wanting to mess with shipping or to sell to other areas, you need to think about what does sell in your area, what's plentiful versus what's rare. And sometimes you'll pay a little bit more for things that are rare. Like, she can get a buffet for $75, and I paid $400 for one that needed work. That's a little more than I usually pay, but that's, you know, just to give you a little bit of numbers there. Then you need to think about the condition, and you have to factor in the labor, the material cost for your old and damaged furniture. So don't ever forget that. When you see a piece and it's cheap, if it's going to need 10 hours of work and $60 worth of materials just to get it to where you can start on it, you got to add a couple of $100 to your cost of that piece. That's a really important factor. And when you're looking at the piece, you got your flashlight, even if you're in the light, and you're looking inside every drawer. Did they slide in good? Looking all around the back. Is there water damage? Have there been previous repairs and screws are showing? Is the veneer chipped to where you can repair it with wood putty, or is it so loose that you're going to have to scrape it off? Is the furniture, nowadays, most furniture is made out of plywood or particle board or MDF with veneer on top of it to look like real wood. Sometimes they're a solid wood piece, maybe made out of pine or some soft wood, and then a walnut veneer over it. Whether it's actual solid wood, like you can find a lot of older oak pieces, or whether it's laminate, like the IKEA stuff of today. All of those things have to say, if you find a laminate piece that's in good condition, it's probably on MDF and probably heavy as heck. But you also are going to have to scuff sand that. You're going to have to use slick stick on that. You're going to have to do a lot more prep on one of those pieces than you would on one that's wood or undamaged veneer. So keep that in your mind whenever you're calculating, when you're looking at the piece, what's it going to cost me to make this sellable? What's the market going to bear? You can't take an IKEA laminate dresser and spend $100 on it, spend $200 fixing it, and then sell it for $300 because you'll go out of business. You just didn't make any money. And an IKEA dresser is not worth more than $300. So you got to keep that kind of thing in mind. Will it take extra steps to prep? Will it take primers? Or is there veneer that needs to be repaired? Will it take a lot of sanding? Is it going to be a piece that has bleed through, so that you have to use a primer to prevent it from bleeding through your paint? This is another good one, a good tip right here, and I have failed miserably at a time or two at this. This is why I remember it, thinking about that buffet that I paid too much for. Look at the hardware. Is there any piece of it damaged or missing? It is difficult, although not impossible, it's difficult to find missing period piece hardware. And it's expensive to replace all of the hardware. So finding a piece that has good sturdy hardware and has all of the hardware on it is a gold mine. That's a good thing to find. And the same thing when they have intricate trim and designs around the edges and things like that. Look at that very closely, top to bottom, right to left, up to down, sideways to sideways, angle to angle. Is there a little piece of that missing down here in one corner? If there is, what are you going to do? Are you gonna take all of that trim off and then have a plain piece? That's going to add time and labor and sanding. Are you going to replace it with a different kind of trim? Time and expense. Are you going to try to make a mold of the other trim, make another one to put on there? Also, time consuming and there's a cost to it. So you're not going to want to, with you being a professional furniture painter, you're not going to want to send it out there with your name on it and a piece of hardware that doesn't match the other ones and a piece of the trim missing at the bottom. So you're going to have to, address those things. Other things that you're looking for when you're looking for your piece of furniture, sadly, is bugs. A while back, it's probably been a year and a half, 2 years ago now, I bought an entire house, abandoned house, full of furniture. All this old furniture, I thought I had died and gone to heaven. I didn't, buy unreasonably, and I did buy at, and factor all of these things that I'm telling you here into consideration. But one thing I didn't check because I was overwhelmed with the fact once I got to the place and I saw, not the pictures, but the actual furniture, that part of the roof was missing on the place, that the pieces had been exposed to, the elements a little bit. It's not good to go buy a piece of furniture that's been on somebody's porch, that's been out in their shed or anything like that, because there's so much moisture in the air that the wood will absorb that moisture and you're going to have problems with it later on. But you're going to need to look for bugs, the presence of live bugs, roaches, spiders, that kind of stuff, and the presence of their poop and trails that were left behind. Same thing, rats and rodents and things like that. You're going to need to look for rot. It's not difficult to replace the bottom of a drawer, but it is time consuming and it does add to the cost. So, but if that rot was on the bottom of a back leg, then your piece is going to sit crooked. Then you can't just replace one leg. You're going to have to replace at least 2, if not 4, 6, or 8, depending on your piece. So that's going to add to your steps and your cost. Look for water damage, and not just like, we all know about the ring. If somebody sat a glass of water on top of a wood piece, we can find a way to work with that. But I'm talking about water damage that ends up being little bitty ripples and splits and cracks in the veneer. Those are very difficult to repair properly. And personally, I either chip off the veneer or cover the whole thing with mud or wood putty or Bondo or whatever, and then sand it down. I need to write that down. Look for the lifted or missing veneer. A lot of times the veneer will be separated from it if there's been a lot of moisture. Well, you can usually use a paintbrush and get your wood glue in there and clamp that down if it's not rippled. Or you can either put your wood glue in we use the syringes that you buy for injecting your turkey or whatever, and inject that into some of the areas and mash it down and put a piece of parchment over it and put some books on it, depending on the side. But another thing to really look for are the drawer glides. Do the drawers glide in and out easily? If not, can you just put some Big Mama's butter in there and then they're going to work? Or do you need to pull that drawer out and see that it's got a crooked, wonked up drawer glide in there, then you're going to have to replace drawer glide hardware, and you could be looking at, you know, $40 or $50 a drawer. It's not doable, but you got to factor in that cost. Look at the legs, the feet, see if it wobbles, the missing hardware, all that stuff. That's the end of that, is to just look at, will it take any extra steps to prepare it for the flip. And you won't always see them all. Sometimes it's worth it anyways, and sometimes it's not. But just because a piece costs $10 does not mean you should buy it. So you got to factor in all that. Next week for episode 3, we got it planned out here already, and you probably can't see, but we're going to be talking about prep and tools of the trade. So then we've decided what we're going to do. We've got our pieces home. We've got them stored in as climate controlled of an environment as we can. If you're having to store these things in a cold garage or in a shed or a storage building, just make sure that it's closed up at least, and that moisture's not going in there very much. But before you plan to work on it, bring it into your workspace and let it get climatized for at least 2 or 3 days before you start to work on it. Because it's going to need that to sort of tighten back up. Then you'll check all the drawers and the movement and everything again before you start your work. So next week we're going to talk about the pre-prep, prep, the regular tools, your electric tools, and your miscellaneous things that I need. I do need them, that I recommend and I use often in my studio, and some that I still don't have yet but want, and I think we all need them. We'll talk about those too, and I will see you next week. If you want to be and have your question answered or included in that, to let me know. Just comment it here, DM it to me or whatever, and I will include it in episode 8 and in the ebook. Thanks for watching.